Lovely to see a full house. We just had a wonderful AGM and now we're all set for the Thai socials. Could I have a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen? Else I'm going to ask. That's it. That's how Thai works. Few whistles. All right. So we're all set for the evening. We have two very interesting programs for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen. Shh. Thank you. Thank you. So this evening we're going to kickstart with a very special session. And this is made possible thanks to our friends from Tatler. For those of you who probably subscribe to Tatler or catch them online, they have a very special segment called Gen T. Now Gen T every year in the different markets in the region basically honors successful, young, interesting founders, entrepreneurs. As most of you who are either part of Thai or friends of Thai, as you know, Thai is all about fostering entrepreneurship. The community, has been around for 30 over years. There are 61 chapters, 15,000 members, and it's a not-for-profit. It's a network that pays it forward by helping entrepreneurs. So we couldn't have asked for a better partner than Gen T. It of course helps that Parry, who's recently joined Tatler as their COO, he's obviously been very supportive. He's on the board of Thai as well, and he's kindly agreed to moderate the panel. So Parry, could I please request you to come? Ladies and gentlemen, Parminder Singh. And I have the pleasure of introducing three founders who are all Gen T honorees from the Gen T Singapore list of 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for the three founders. Anders Tan, co-founder Inclus; Mint Lim, founder of School of Concepts; Shi Ling, co-founder and CEO of UIlicious. And thank you. And Parry, over to you. The next half an hour, it's going to be a fireside panel chat. Parry will do his magic, and the whole idea is to sort of uncover their journey. And we'll keep some time for Q&A before we move to the last segment before dinner, where we'll have demos from 3 AI-powered tech startups, and I'll talk about them in a minute. Parry, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Prantik. Good evening, everyone. So, firstly, congratulations on being a Gen T Leaders of Tomorrow. Well done. All of you are hugely deserving of this honor, and I think the Gen T list is proud of having you in our cohort. So thank you for that. Now, just for those of you who don't know about the Gen T program, it's a list that we take out every year to honor young trailblazers, people who don't just have amazing businesses, but they have amazing missions. And it's not just a list. Gen T is a cohort of people who meet regularly, they interact with each other, exchange ideas, and they get into forums like this. So because one common feature across all Gen T honorees is that they have an amazing mission, let's first start with the mission. So you all have businesses that are not just amazing businesses, but with very unique missions. So why don't we start by your sharing with us the mission of your business and what inspired you to embrace this mission. So Anders, let's start with you first.
Hello. Thanks, Parry. Yeah. Maybe I can start with the reason why I started the social enterprise Inclus. It's actually on a personal note. We do have a family member that's on the autism spectrum who is unable to get jobs for many years. So as a family, we tried many ways or methods to try to get this family member into the job, which was unfortunately tough, even in a country like Singapore. So back then, somebody has to do something. So I've decided to take the role of the guy to find jobs. But before that, was ready to find out what is available in the market. And not just in Singapore, I started traveling with a group of friends to really understand the landscape. So we flew to US, Japan, India. We stay in those countries and ready to find out what has been done and what is good that we can probably bring it back to Singapore. So that was the whole story, how it all started. To be able to bring back something that will also benefit not just my family members, parents with special needs kids, or person with disability into the role of getting employment or gainful employment is what we wanted to do. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Mint. Nice to see familiar faces here. Well, I'm Mint. I'm founder of School of Concepts. I'm a dyslexic, and I grew up very different. Basically, in the classroom and in school, I was a child who was left behind. So today, I'm on a mission to leave no child behind. And that stemmed from my own experiences through my childhood, finding lots of difficulties learning that are not quite visible from my physical outlook. But more importantly, what actually pained me was the journey. I started off as a serial entrepreneur, and I exited a couple of education businesses in the tuition space. What pained me the most was really just reflecting, right? At the point of birth, how many of us here are parents? Can I see a raise of hands? You see, I'm sure you will understand, when your child is born, that child is always unique, special, so beautiful. But for some reason, the child goes to school, has 39 other classmates, does not score top 1, 2, 3 in class, and that child is no longer unique, no longer quite special, and could just be a bit better like that top 1, 2, or 3. That really pained me. I saw every child as unique and special the same way my parents looked at me, and I wanted that for every single child. Hence, I started School of Concepts, a school that's on a mission to leave no child behind through tech, toys, and a unique methodology that will help every single child optimize their learning ability.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Shi Ling. So I'm the co-founder of UIlicious. And my mission is to help software engineers have a peaceful sleep at night. No more firefighting because something broke on production. And this comes from my own personal suffering as a software engineer for more than 10 years. At least for the last 6 years as a founder, I have ensured that we have good practices and I don't need to worry. Well, that's my CTO's job, not my job. But anyway, when I was a junior engineer, every week I had to stay up, be on call, and make sure that nothing goes wrong with the deployment, but something almost always does goes wrong. And I will hear about it the next morning, and then I have to stay up late the next day to make sure everything is fixed. And I realized that a lot of companies or software teams run in this cowboy style where there's no time to test. Let's just roll it out because the COO or the marketing team or the sales team want it out like now or like the end of the week. So like, let's just break the testing. We just test the basic only and then we roll it out. And then you'll get users who would fall into the cracks. They do unusual things that your QA team didn't think about because they're not the critical flow. And then there's like your reputation of your product suffers. So for me, my personal mission, besides helping engineers sleep better at night, including myself, is to ensure that all software that is used by everyone is of good quality because software runs the world today.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your inspiring visions with us. Now, we have lots of entrepreneurs over here. And as you all know, the entrepreneurial journey is full of obstacles. And the best way to overcome and learn how to overcome the obstacles is to hear from other entrepreneurs. So why don't you share with us, each one of you, like what was the biggest obstacle you faced so far in your journey and how did you overcome that?
I think for my first obstacle that I faced was the intention of not setting up the business as a charity while we are serving the vulnerable groups. I think what we did was when we first came back to Singapore, we set up as a social enterprise, which is essentially a for-profit organization. And we have decided not to get government grants, and that's how we decided it should be this way. And why we wanted to do it that way is also to basically validate the business model, to see if there's anyone who is willing to pay for the services, and not because government is supporting us through their grants or support in that sense. So that was the first biggest obstacles that we had, because despite our services that is available to people, there are other alternative services which is offered by the government that is completely free of charge. So for us to come forward and say, I'm going to charge you, it's really changing the mindset of the people and whether there are people who join in terms of paying us a fee to run those services. So it was the biggest challenge. We managed to convince a lot of partners to come on board. And that was very comforting because we managed to validate the business model over the first 2 years and managed to be sustainable on our own. So I think that was something that was the biggest challenge of our team. Yeah.
I just have a follow-up question on that. If you ask a VC, they normally say, you know what, social enterprise, keep the two things separate, right? Run a business, and if you want to do social good, have a different company to do that. Don't mix the two. You seem to have done something very different and kind of bucked the trend. So any thoughts on that?
To be honest, we are pretty new in the social enterprise space as well. Back then, 5 years ago. What we did was we see the landscape of business and investment is evolving. Not so much it's just like business and social good, like separately or mutually exclusive. We see this as a more of a kind of combination that we see this as not like, social good is not an afterthought, but rather like the integration of social good to be part of the very fabric of your business model. And that's very crucial for us because when we see this as a larger piece, we're seeing the culture has changed quite a fair bit. Companies, or rather a couple of reasons why. I think firstly, the consumer behavior has changed. If you look at consumer today, they're very focused on social environment impact of the purchase that they make. And they look into companies and they demand transparency, responsibility of organization. And they typically choose brand that follows very closely to their values and they support them. So again, the change in consumer behavior also led to, meaning to say that company who has strong social mission in those areas will essentially get a lot more consumer follow them. Next, I think the other things that we are observing is also like talented professionals, especially the younger generation. They are looking to do meaningful work. And they particularly choose company that has those social mission that aligns again with their personal values. So of course, as an organization or as an employer, you are really looking at a long-term game plan to have people or attract and retain talented individuals to join our organization. So we are really looking at a very newer generation that's looking at all this very little detail of your organization. And that's also something that we observe over the last few years. And of course, the last thing that we also observe is that because of the work that we do, I think we also observe that there are a lot of gaps. There's also a lot of untapped spaces, particularly like for my space in the disability sector, there's lack of services and products. And we essentially are talking about a good 16% of the world's population that has some form of disability that's untapped. So, I mean, as any brand, any industry, if you are here seated, you can also consider that as actually a big market that is untapped today. So again, yeah, so these are the things that I feel that people should think about, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We will come to the audience very soon, so keep your questions ready. Mint, you've talked about your, of course, personal challenges, but as a business, what are the biggest obstacles and challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
Well, I started R&D in 2012, and back then it was being a social enterprise, especially in the local landscape, was something that was very unheard of. People understood charity and people understood for-profit. So saying things like offering a product at a charity rate or a subsidized rate gave them the immediate impression, all thanks to the demand and supply curve, that it's low quality. And that was our biggest challenge. We struggled with the fact that we didn't know whether to even say that we proudly are a social enterprise. Because just by saying that, people discounted the quality of our products and our services. Well, that was many years back. So I didn't really overcome the obstacle on my own. It was really the support and the help of the community around. Many people, including yourselves, now embrace social impact and mission. And people have started to recognize that products with a mission and a vision may not entirely be of low quality. In fact, they can be of extremely high quality, not just in the physical state, but also from where the heart, from where it's made. So yeah, so that was my biggest obstacle. But over time, it has now become one of our greatest strengths.
Well done. Shi Ling, you are, I think one of the obstacles I've been told you might face is that you're a perfectionist, and you say so yourself. Tell us more about that. Is that an obstacle or a help?
I think as I will admit when I was growing up, I'm a perfectionist. I want things to be perfect. I have very high standard for software in particular. I think over the years, I learned to strike a balance because you need to get the product out to market. So there's this thing where you practice agile. You try to get your minimum viable product out the door as soon as possible so that you can collect real user feedback and then iterate on it rather than trying to make it perfect in my mind. Whereas what I should be thinking is how do I make it perfect for my users? And so the answer is just to get whatever you have out the door as soon as you can and collect as much feedback and then you can go back. Then you can slowly make your journey towards perfection.
Nice. So, let's, any questions from the audience? Any show of hands? I think we have a mic circulating. Okay, you have a question, Preeti?
I got it. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Preeti Davra. I work at NTU. Very inspiring stories here. I'd like to specifically understand what specifically is your product and service, and how does it cater to some missing gap in the market? I don't have a clear sense of that yet.
Preeti, this question is for all of them? Or?
All three of them.
All three. Okay, why don't you describe your product?
Essentially, we are an employment agency for persons with disability. We work with employer to help them with inclusive hiring, particularly on the person with disability. We go in, we train C-suite mid-tier department level to get them ready to hire right. We look through their policy to make sure there's no biasness through the process. And we work with them. We work with the schools, Institute of Higher Learning, IT, Poly, Uni, the special needs schools. We transit students into internship and full-time job placement with the employer that we work with. So that is our product services.
And my product, as shared, is Leave No Child Behind. So we've got an optimal learning methodology that's unique to us, and we incorporate it in toys, in tech, and through our school curriculum, where we teach children. We started off with English literacy, and then we moved on to financial literacy. So if you're familiar with POSB Smiley Squirrel, that FinLit program is by us. We incorporate that methodology into STEAM today as well through toys and tech. And as we grow, that methodology will be fit into more programs and curriculum to ensure that every child will receive content in the way they learn best.
So my company is UIlicious, and basically we sell software as a service to software engineering teams to ensure that the user interface for their application is working correctly as intended, and their end users will not encounter error. So using our system, they can automate what a manual tester, the QA team, would do with procedural scripts. And now what we are doing right now is we even make the process even simpler. With Gen AI, you can actually use just the URL, and we'll capture the screenshots, or you can submit screenshots manually, and then we will generate all of the tests based on the screenshots of the application alone.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, thank you for sharing your story. So my question particularly is for Andreas. I was intrigued by what you mentioned about, there's an audience that wants to, believe in something and pay for something. So, I run a, market research startup, and one of the things we realize is there's a huge gap between what people say, particularly on such matters, and do, okay? So we ran an experiment in Singapore where these people who claim that they want to pay for sustainable goods, for example, all we did is attach a 50 cents premium on the average price, and a frightening number of people in Singapore refused to pay for that 50 cents. So how do you cater for that, huge gap between what people say because it's good to, maybe, it's the right thing to say, versus what they actually do on the ground? Because I'm sure you face that, very much on a daily basis. Yeah, thank you.
So I take it as in context to what we do. We do have employer that is ready to pay for services like that. Of course, we do have another pool that is not ready but claims that they are. This is something that we, like you mentioned, is a day-to-day kind of people that we meet. Typically, we walk away, right? But of course, we're not going to walk away in the ugly format. We still maintain contacts because they may not be ready at the moment. It's just that when they are ready, we will always be there, top their list. Frankly speaking, for us, is that we will outreach to a lot of people on a daily basis as well. So it's really the number that we reach out, and then those who are ready, we will work with them. Those who are not, we will not have any basically heartbreaks or anything like that. We'll just move on to another group that is ready. Again, I think talking about inclusive hiring in Singapore in general, we are still at the baby stage. While a lot of people are hiring, but in general, it's still very slow. So we are still looking forward to more people coming on board. Of course, as an audience, if you are interested to hire, good, please feel free to reach out to me after this conversation. I hope I answered your question. Yeah, thank you.
So, no panel discussion these days is complete without a question on Gen AI. And Shi Ling, since you mentioned that you are already using Gen AI for, your product, which is around coding, scripting, and testing, and you said you're using it, but, any business that's dependent on Gen AI as a core engine or as an app layer on top of Gen AI also feels that with each version, probably Gen AI itself is moving closer to doing the business that you are in, right? Does that bother you that, hey, all this could be done by any of the core engines itself, or no?
So we do some things that are unique, and we also incorporate our proprietary technology. So that's some of the things that makes how our implementation of our software that is built on top of Gen AI a little bit more unique and defensible. One thing that is unique to us is that it generates the test that is using our proprietary framework. And then if you were to even use the same techniques to generate tests but for a different framework, you wouldn't get the same level of efficacy and accuracy because it's not using our core engine. So even if other tools have managed to catch up and also build their own Gen AI solution, Gen AI is not our only offering and our only unique selling point. So we also have our core engine, which is provides the QA teams a local testing tool.
Mint, when ChatGPT was released last year, there's a company called Check, which helps kids do homework, right? And their share price dropped by, I think, 60% or something like that, the same day. And, EdTech has gone through a little bit of a seesaw, a roller coaster, right? COVID was, of course, the good days. And then ChatGPT happened, a lot of stocks and companies came crashing down. Of course, you have a mission much larger than EdTech, but EdTech is a core part of your business. How do you think of ChatGPT, Gen AI, and some of these new developments?
I love this question, actually. Well, AI is a great enabler, very empowering, actually. And COVID was a good accelerator as well. So we actually spent our COVID years building and adapting and understanding what we can do best to benefit our learners. And that was a true test of our value system as well. Well, during COVID, I'm not gonna lie. Where there were people who told us, you are silly not to do online lessons. You are silly not to transfer all that program into an online space. But we weren't gonna do that. Because at the end of it, we are an impact business. And to us, it's more important we do what's best for the children, we do what's best for the parents, and we do what's best for the educators. And those values actually led us through. Those values actually helped us move past that period. So we ended up creating tech, the ed tech that we say today, the Gen AI that we've developed today under our sister companies called School on Cloud, where we incorporate our methodology in that can be plugged into subjects, different curriculum and different topics. Well, that has helped us bridge the content gap that educators and parents find cumbersome and maybe a little bit troublesome to administer today. Whereas, while doing that, we also spend that time further developing how we can further nurture the human side of education. So we see it as a two-way approach, right? There is the Gen AI in the digital space, and there is also that human Gen AI in the classroom space. And I think that's exactly what would work best in terms of what would be best for children.
Well said. Any other audience questions, Narendra?
Is there a mic there? Or?
Well, it took some teamwork to get this to me. I have a question for Mint, two-part question. One is, does your program run outside the school curriculum and people have to go outside the school, or is it sort of built into the school curriculum for schools to adapt? And secondly, could you give an example of one of the interventions or what you do, just those two things?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the opportunity to share more about my product with everyone here. So basically what we do is that we've got a methodology that helps every learner optimize their ability. So how all of us receive information in this room is very different. And some of us, if I cut it simply, some of us are more visual, some of us are more auditory, and some of us are more hands-on. Well, we have a combination of that. And using that methodology, we incorporate different subjects and different topics. So back to your question about where it can be delivered, it has been delivered through our schools, our enrichment centers, where we provide enrichment literacy programs to children. It's been incorporated into schools, where through POSB Bank, we actually teach children about financial literacy. So in Singapore, we have 100% market penetration in primary schools. And then it has also been incorporated into different corporate topics or subjects. For example, when solar panels started appearing at the top of our roofs, it was impossible to teach children how energy worked, how that conversion happened, how that panel would convert that energy into, say, your air conditioning. But what we did was we actually incorporate our methodology. We end up fitting up stories and toys and digital content, and that helped 100% of the learners who have experienced our program understand how solar panels above our houses work today. And so that program is also widely available through Singapore's National Family Festival, island-wide, through the support of our local government. So it can be plugged into quite a few areas. So long as there's content to be learned, so long as there's knowledge to be acquired, we can be there.
Any other questions from the audience? There's a question there at the back.
Hi everyone, I'm Saurabh here. I have run a social enterprise before, so I understand some of the challenges. So my simple question is, have you guys been able to raise funds? Have you raised funds from VCs? If yes, then what kind of challenge did you face, or what are your funding sources basically?
We have not really raised any fund to date. This is our 5th year running. We are hoping to look into investment in the upcoming 2 years. In fact, we're expanding to Southeast Asian market. We are moving into like Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, countries that really need similar help. People with disability looking for employment. So we are working with the government agencies and the non-profits over individual countries to make sure we execute similar model over there. But back to the funding model, we have not. But I think in Singapore alone, I think we have a lot of government interest to support us, giving us more grants for our work. Not so much on VC's funding yet. Yeah. Bootstrap. Everything is bootstrap for us. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm in between. So I bootstrapped initially to show efficacy and ability to be a viable business. But as an impact business, I'm still for profit. So we have been able to fundraise, but we are strategic about how we do it. So we actually like sector developers. We actually like investors who appreciate the double top line, where not just money is a currency, but impact is also a form of currency. So that's where we're at. We have successfully fundraised from institutions, no angels. But we hope to be able to further move into the space where we actually onboard more like-minded. I don't call them investors, I call them partners on this mission.
You want to answer?
We're not a social enterprise though. Well, we have raised funds from a VC. Well, I'm impact, so I wouldn't say like it's easy, but at least it's not as hard as social enterprise, I think.
There's a question there at the back.
Hey, yeah, my question is specifically for Mint, but curious what the rest think as well. I appreciate you sharing in your intro itself that you were dyslexic growing up, so was I. But I think even for a regular kid in the school system today, in Asia, I see the biggest challenge as not exactly the changing forces with AI and all of that, but pressure from parents, right? how do you see that changing? Are you doing anything to change parents' mindset? Because at the end of the day, that's where most of the pressure is coming from. And if that doesn't change, it's very difficult to change the system.
So precisely what I'm trying to do, right? Instead of a teacher looking at 40 children and identifying the best of the lot, I'm trying to change that to all of that individual, every single 40, every single child in that 40 is or has a learning superpower. So, you know, helping children identify their optimal learning ability, helping them acquire that level of confidence, actually will change the perspective of a parent. Let me ask you, do you know how much did Superman score for his math or his science? Nobody really cares. Well, he saved the world, right? So I think that's the notion, that's how we see it, right? As a parent myself, when I look at my child and I see her super talented in an area that I can appreciate so much, she suddenly doesn't become, immediately I don't see her as part of that entire rat race. I see her as someone who has emerged out of it. And I hope more parents in this room can enable children to see themselves that way. Thanks for the question, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll take a last audience question before I ask 2 mandatory questions to our panelists. So, anybody? No? Okay, so, you know, this is TIE, the creme de la creme of entrepreneurs, investors, and corporate executives. What's your wish list here? The wish list. What do you want? How can we help you?
I've asked that early on.
You asked.
So maybe just
You want to repeat it once more so that
yes,
people
one more
get
time.
it?
If you are looking to hire inclusively within your organization, feel free to reach out to that.
I want to show my support for Enders. We are also an inclusive employer, so we completely support what Enders does. For me, I am looking for people who are keen to join me on this mission to leave no child behind. So if children are important to you, education is important to you, the next generation is important to you, I would love to chat further, be it funding, network, or just journeying on this mission together, or your advocacy at least. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
For me, very simple. If you are an investor and you want to have money to give to me, I will happily take it. Also, if your portfolio got companies that have engineers, you know what product they need. They need to QA, and they need to QA their UI, and they can look for me.
Very straightforward. Thank you for that. Okay, so the last question. Name any book or a movie or an article or any work of art that has inspired you that you'd like to share with others.
I think for me, when I was setting up Inclus 5 years ago, I think I read a book called Bad Blood. There's a movie as well. I think the emphasis is on the importance of ethical integrity in serving the vulnerable groups. So it's a constant reminder for me and my team to make sure that we always do the right thing. And we make sure that we do not hurt anybody because of profit, whether it's for short term or long term. So this has a great impact on us. Thanks.
Well, interesting that you said book, because for a dyslexic, every time we read it, it looks different. Well, for myself, I find different, and because of this nature, I find different perspectives in different books and art that I experience or come across. But what I really want to share today about what has inspired me and has stuck with me for this long is the language of love. So it's something that we live by and I live by, is that in all I do it with love. And that's something that has inspired me, and I want to share with everyone today to consider and think about what you're doing. And if it's done with love and it yields love, congratulations.
So for myself, when I was growing up, I watched this movie. It was a Disney movie called Meet the Robinsons. And for me, I can really relate to the main character. So the main character is a small boy. He's an orphan, but he's a very brilliant inventor. So he goes through a lot of interviews with foster parents who are interested in adopting a kid. But after 100 interviews, and every time he tries to demonstrate his cool invention in front of the parents, he often blows up in their face, quite literally. He was extremely disappointed and felt very worthless because he kept failing, he kept getting rejected. And I think I was reminded of that. I watched it again. I was reminded of my entrepreneurship journey because as I'm going out to sell my product to people, as I'm going out to, as a junior engineer, propose an idea to my manager, often I get rejected. But I came to later learn, and as you see when the boy finally meets the family, that he was very excited to be adopted, but he really wants to be adopted by them, and they are very keen on him. His invention yet again blows up in their face, but instead of saying, "Oh no," the family say, "Hooray, you failed!" Because failure is the mother of success. And I think that I think about when I remember this story is also about WD-40, you know, the lubricant. You know why it's called WD-40? 40 is because it's the 40th formula that worked, and they commercialized it. So as an inventor, as like an engineer, and I feel like as for anyone who have kids that are interested in science and technology, you should get them to watch Meet the Robinsons and learn that failure is nothing to be ashamed of, and they shouldn't be ashamed of getting rejected, because one day it will work.
I can't top that. On that wonderful note, Anders, Min, Shi Ling, thank you for sharing your wonderful journeys with us. You've inspired us today. And I think you'll keep inspiring millions in your journey. So thank you, our Gen T leaders of tomorrow. Thank you very much.